Hey, I'm Serenity and this is my channel and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are making a strawberry Leches heart cake here for Valentine's Day, even though this is definitely going up after the holiday because this gave me trouble. But I'm going to walk you through every single step to make this cake for your loved ones. I would say this Valentine's season, but really any time of the year. So let's get into it. So we're going to start by prepping our pan. So this is a little different than what I normally do with my pans, and I am wearing my lover cardigan because it has little hearts on it for Valentine's. It's a little different than what we normally do. So, parchment paper is our best friend. I'm measuring out 2. We're going to fold our parchment in half. And as you can see, this would be like the heart. We're going to fold this in half again. Only half of the heart we're going to trace using our scissors and cut this out. I'm going to cut the rest of the part up this way and this way because we're going to use the remaining as strips for our side. You'll see what I mean. We're going to just ham and spray the bottom, put our liner, move it out. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Normally, we would stop here with the pan or any other cake. For this one, we're going to do it a little differently. So we're going to take our extra strip and we're going to line the edges of the pan too. Why are we doing this? Because it's a Leches and we're going to put the Leches mixture in the bottom while they're still in the pan. I like to do it this way. I have a little container of metal binder clip that I'm just going to use to clip to the side, a little over and to the side, like that. And they're metal because they're going to go into the oven. I'm going to spray it one more time, and now these we're going to set aside while we make our dough. For our cake, actual cake, you can easily use strawberry cake mix, but I wanted to try this recipe I saw out for the best strawberry cake ever. So we're going to start with 2 key ingredients, which is white cake mix and strawberry jello. These are our main ingredients. Now, if you are using box cake mix, as always, my suggestions, my tips are to add an extra egg of what it asks for. So if it's asking for 3 eggs, add a 4th egg, and then always swap the water for the milk. For this recipe, we're also going to need a cup of thawed frozen strawberries. And I kind of just pressed them down a little, like this. I kind of just muddled them together. We're going to start with 4 eggs, 2/3 cup of veggie oil, and we're just going to mix this together. Now we're just going to add our vanilla cake mix, followed by our strawberry jello, and giving this a good whip. It's looking too dry for me, so I'm just going to add some milk. And finally, we're just going to fold in our cup of frozen strawberries. Let me just try this. It's pretty good. I don't know if it tastes any different than regular strawberry. Now we are just going to fill our pans evenly. I'm using a ice cream scoop so I can get them as even as I possibly can. It's very pink, I will say that. Now I'm going to bake these for about 20 to 22 minutes because they are 8-inch heart pans. But like any cake, just keep an eye on it. Every oven's different. And I'm baking at 350, which is what the box says. While our cakes are baking, we are going to make the Leches, the 3 milks component. I'm actually using 4 milks, but it's pretty simple. You're going to need 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. This is La Lechera, which is the Mexican brand. 1 can of evaporated milk. And then this is like debatable. Some people use one or the other. I'm using both today. Either 1 cup of whole milk or 1 cup of heavy cream, whipping cream. This is expensive, so we're doing half and half. And then finally, a little bit of vanilla. Starting in a big glass cup, we're going to add our 1 can of evaporated milk, followed by our 1 can of sweetened condensed. Next, we're going to do half a cup of whole milk and half a cup of heavy whipping cream. And lastly, we're going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm just going to whisk that together till it is... Oh, shit! Don't do that. Whisk carefully, I guess. See, that's why we put a towel down. I'm just going to whisk this together till it is one unified liquid. We're just going to set this aside for when our cakes are done baking. The next thing we're going to do while our cakes are still baking is something called macerating our strawberries, which are going to be for our filling. So basically, we're going to chop some berries up really small, and then we're going to add sugar to them to pull out their juices so they're nice and like syrupy. They're the type of berries you get when you are like at a brunch place. So we're just going to take our berries that are clean, please clean your berries, and chop them into small pieces. And you're going to want to cut more berries than you think you're going to need, mainly because they kind of shrink in size once the sugar pulls their sugars out. So Leches is not a hard cake to make. It is just time consuming compared to any other cake you could make, and especially since you usually use a whipped cream for frosting, and that is hard to stabilize if you don't know how to do that. If you're making this cake for a loved one, make sure you are lying and telling them how hard it was to make this cake. That way they really appreciate your love. Now that we have our chopped strawberries, we're just gonna add about 2 tablespoon to 3, about 2 to 3 tablespoons of plain granulated sugar. And we're going to give it a good mix with a spatula. Fun fact, 90% of the time I'm using Christmas spatulas because they are the cheapest after Christmas. And I just choose whatever color goes with whatever I'm doing. Once everything is nice and coated like this, you're going to set it aside till you need it. So I'm actually going to put a lid on mine and put it in the fridge because I'm going to be decorating this cake tomorrow. Mainly because it is 10 p.m. and I always bake at it. But you can set it aside and after like 10 to 15 minutes, your strawberries are ready to use. Our cakes are hot from the oven. It took about 30 minutes to get them fully cooked. So now with a fork, while they're hot, we're going to poke holes all over, about almost all the way through. I would say about 3/4, but don't poke the bottom. This way our milk can soak in. Now we're going to take our milk mixture that we made and we're just going to pour it evenly on into both cakes. I'm also going to take off the little binder clip. Don't flood your cake or let it soak in and then repeat. So since I like to work with frozen cakes, these cakes I am actually going to use tomorrow, so I'm going to wrap in saran wrap, but still in the pan. Usually I would pop them out of their pan. I'm not doing that. We're wrapping them in their pan. Now, they're still hot, so be careful. But at the very least, you'd want these to cool. To cool completely before icing them. So I'm just using saran wrap like I always do and saran wrapping these in their pan. And then I'm going to put them in their fridge. Now both our cakes are wrapped and you can see they're getting a little foggy. I'm going to plop them into my fridge till they cool, like completely till the pan is cool to touch. Then from there I think I'm going to plop them into the freezer overnight. Welcome back to day number 2. I just put our cakes in the freezer about 30 minutes ago. This bowl, its metal has been chilling overnight because we're going to be making whipped cream, like a stable whipped cream for our frosting instead of traditional buttercream. Whipped cream is the best tres leches. That's what you traditionally have. So it's really simple. The bowl has been frozen. You're going to need a stand mixer or an electric mixer. You could do this by hand. I would not recommend it. We're going to start with heavy whipping cream. I'm going to use 1.5 of these. Just pour it into our stand mixer and we're going to use the whisk attachment. Realistically, I probably should put the whisk attachment in there too. We are going to whip this on 2 to 4 medium for about 5-10 minutes until soft peaks form. You're going to want to start slow and then slowly go up. Okay, this has been going for 5-10 minutes now and I may have over whipped it, but that's okay. So it just tastes like whipped heavy cream, like there's no flavor to it right now. So we're gonna scrape the bottom of the bowl. I have some more strawberry jello because we're gonna end up dyeing this pink. So I'm just gonna do about 2.5 teaspoons of strawberry jello just to give it a little taste. You don't have to do that at all. I just want a little more strawberry taste if I can. Now I'm gonna do 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And lastly, we're going to do some powdered sugar in here. And this is going to stabilize our cake. So I'm going to start with 1/3 of a cup. I probably won't do more than a cup. I don't want this to be too stiff because last time I did this, it was extremely hard to pipe because I made it too stiff. But I don't want that to happen this time. We're going to scrape the side. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color my buttercream pink. So I'm just going to add like 2-3 drops. It already is a little pink from the jello. We are going to be making bows for our cake. This is super simple. I have just some ribbon here that I bought in bulk. I'm going to lay out a foot of it. And it's very simple. If you know how to make a bow, I'm just going to fold it in and tie my ribbon. And there we go. Now we'll just set our bows aside so we need them. You're going to want to always make the ends a little longer than you think you're going to need. So originally I was going to dye some of my buttercream red, my whipped cream red, but then I remembered I have red buttercream in the fridge and this is only what we're going to use for piping detail. I have a 12-inch piping bag here with a number 5 tip, and then this is just an old like tumbler cup that I lost the lid to. It's perfect for filling icy bags. I'm going to fold it over the edge. I'm actually going to cut the edge on this bag of icing and just put it in here. Whenever you can avoid making red frosting, please do it. It stains like no other. And then just a regular piping bag. This is a 1A tip from Wilton. This is an 18-inch piping bag. Cut the end off. And then I've had the whipped cream in the freezer this whole time while we were making bows, just to keep it cold.
To start stacking and crumb coating our cake, we're going to take the plastic wrap that was on our cakes, put icing on the top of it, then flip it upside down, doing like a cake flip onto the board. And you're going to want to make sure this is as centered as possible. I'm using a cake drum instead of a cake board like I normally would, because this cake will leak. The bottom part will leak as you're seeing it happening. So you want something sturdier like a cake drum compared to a cake board. Now, immediately you're going to want to crumb coat the bottom half to lock in the moisture. And then I like to create a border wall when I put my filling in. So I created the border wall all the way around and then sealed that wall using the bottom of my spatula and then filled it with my macerated strawberries that I did drain. Next, I'm going to flip the second cake onto a separate small cake board that is plastic. That way the milk doesn't leak through. And then just kind of slide it on top of this cake onto our cake that we already did. Again, you're immediately going to want to frost the sides and the top to lock the milk in. And I was having trouble here, so I'll be honest with you, I popped her into the freezer overnight. That way it can freeze because my whipped cream wasn't as sturdy. And I'll go into that at the end of the video. And then came in the next day and did what I normally do, which I took a pretty warm bench scraper. Because this is whipped cream, you don't want it to be hot. But I put it over the kitchen stove fire, warmed the bench scraper, and then scraped it till smooth until I got this texture. Finally, it was time to decorate. So I wanted really simple like border designs, not a lot of vintage piping like I normally do with my heart cakes. So I just used a basic 1M piping tip around the bottom of the border on the top and bottom. And then with that red buttercream that I had, I am piping on some hearts, and you're just creating like a V shape, basically putting more pressure at the top of the heart, kind of like how you draw birds as a kid, I guess, when you just create like that weird V shape. That's what I'm doing here. And I'm just decorating the whole side of the cake. It's really simple. I'm kind of creating a pattern of like 3, and then the next row is 2, and then 3, and so on and so forth. And on the top, I cannot write on cakes to save my life, okay? But I wrote XOXO and then did some bigger hearts. And here I was like, this cake is so ugly, Serenity. It is ugly, but it actually isn't. It's pretty cute because we can fix it. And by fixing it, we're going to plop our bows on here. So I'm putting a little dollop of buttercream on the center where I want the bows, and then putting the bows on. So 1 at the top and bottom of the heart, and then 2 on each side, and making sure there are ones on each side are diagonal from each other. And I was like, you know what this cake needs? Edible glitter. It needs edible glitter. So I went to town with this silver glitter I got at Target during the holidays once it was on sale. And there you go. Our cake is completed, and she is cute. Not my best word. She's cute, and she tasted delicious. So let's get into that part.
We are now going to cut this cake, or attempt to. I don't even know if it is cuttable because it's been in the freezer and in my fridge for a week. So we're going to attempt that.
To cut the cake, you are going to want to leave it in the fridge for a couple hours before you actually cut it. And then first thing you're going to want to do is take off any extra embellishments like the bows. Now I'm using a big sharp knife and a separate cutting board. And you're going to want to cut across instead of down the middle like I normally do. That way these across sections, the milk stays in and it doesn't leak everywhere as you're cutting up the cake. Now this cake I had left in the freezer overnight, and then I pulled it out to cut it 12 hours before. So I left it in the fridge and it would not defrost for the life of me. And that's why you can see I'm struggling a little bit here cutting it. But after 20 minutes of cutting the whole cake, it defrosted at room temperature, good enough to eat. And let me tell you, this cake was worth every headache I went through to make it. It was so yummy. But by cutting across and then flipping onto the cutting board, you cut onto the cutting board the bigger slabs into smaller sections, and then from there you can serve it like you normally would.
Now let's get into tips and tricks and all the heartaches that I went through making this cake. I started this cake on the 8th. It is now the 16th, so this cake has been going for like over a week. It has not been easy. I thought it was going to be easy because I have another Leches heart cake on my channel that I made for Cinco de Mayo last year, which was really simple actually. I think I got too confident because this time it was not. So I'm going to give you all the tips and tricks and all the fails I had with this cake. First things first, maybe don't use as much milk as I did, or if you are, make sure you are freezing your cake completely before you use it, because I made the mistake of putting it in fridge so it'll cool down, then putting it in the freezer overnight, and then when I went to decorate it, taking it out the morning of, so all the milk had already defrosted. Don't do that. Leave the cake in the freezer until you are ready to decorate, because the milks were spilling out and that was causing the cake to slip. Second, when it comes to your whipped cream, you need to make sure your cream is cold enough. I was whipping my cream nonstop and I was like, why is it not working? So then when I went to use it, when you saw me and it cut off, that's because some of the liquid at the bottom hadn't whipped all the way. So I tried to re-whip it with some more added heavy cream in there, and I created buttermilk, strawberry buttermilk and butter. It was not working, so I scrapped that whole, came for the next day to start fresh, and my fridge, I guess, is just not cold enough to keep the whipped cream as cold as it needs to be. So before you start, put your whipped cream in the freezer so it is cold enough to actually whip the air through it, because if it's like just like kind of cold, it's not going to whip properly and you're gonna have soft peaks, or it just won't whip at all. So that is why when I stacked it, it was one, sliding around from the extra milk falling out, and two, not whipping properly because the whipped cream was not stable enough. So I had to do it again. Okay, those are my tips. You have to make sure the cake needs to be frozen and your whipped cream needs to be stable. You want it to actually be like kind of too stiff to even pipe. That is going to be better than not being stiff enough, because the cream will leak through. Now to eat the cake, once it's fully iced and solid, you can leave it in the fridge overnight. It should be fine. But that is all the tips you need, because this cake, I was so close to giving up so many times, and I was like, sometimes maybe I do need to give up. And this time I was like, you know what, we're in too deep. We've already repurchased heavy cream. There's already too much time and effort and money into this. We're gonna see it through. And it's past Valentine's Day. This video was supposed to go up before it, so. But I just want to give you my fails. Like, I was running out of pink clothing to wear, so I'm pulling out anything that may be pink because I don't wear a lot of pink for this video. Yeah, that is my tips and tricks and my fails for you, so you know. So you can go forward and have a successful cake. So make sure you freeze those layers if you're stacking the cake. If you're not stacking the cake at all and it's going to be decorated in its pan, don't even worry about that. And make sure your whipped cream is stable, okay? At first, I had like a cold foam consistency. That is not good enough. It needs to be stiff. And that is this cake. She's standing. That's all that matters. Here she is completed. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I have tons of art cake videos coming to you this year. This is actually the first cake I've decorated all of 2025. I'm behind on cakes, that's besides the point. As always, as a palette cleanser, the doggo picture day is going to be this picture of Clover on the Peloton. Yeah, he likes Pelotons now. Only make this cake if you actually support Mexican people, because this is our tried and true dress Leches cake. You cannot have it if you are a bigot. You can have carrot cake. So yeah, that's it. Love you, many kisses. Don't think stupid. I'll see you next time. Bye!